And now, ladies and gentlemen, for something we have been waiting for, particularly myself and Dame, because we are two, I say relatively avid baseball fans here. We have our 2021 MLB season preview. I am personally excited to go into the new baseball season after what was the train wreck of a 2020 season in terms of all the negotiation issues, in terms of the COVID issues that they had to deal with. I think for us to get to a whole new year was something that Major League Baseball needed above every other league, and I think is a welcome sight. And with that, you know, comes new potential for certain teams. Obviously, one team we'll get into made a lot of moves during the offseason, but we won't waste any time. We're going to get straight into things here in our MLB season preview. So, Dame, I'm going to throw it to you first with the AL East. Uh, Obviously, the AL East, I think we both are in agreement in terms of who the top team in this division is. But a quick analysis with them. Who do you think is the definitive second team in this division? Because there's a certain team north of the border that tried making some moves this offseason to really take that next step in this division to be more competitive.
Yeah, like you said, like the number one team, I think a lot of people are going to agree on is the Yankees. But the second place, and which is probably going to be the first wild card, that's where the debate really begins. And it's honestly going to be between the Toronto Blue Jays and the Tampa Bay Rays, who made the World Series last year. I was going back and forth on this, but I'm gonna go with the Toronto Blue Jays to be honest. Reason
Ooh.
being is not only because they improved their team a lot, but because the Rays did lose two out of the three top starters, and they didn't
Mhm.
really replace them. I know they got Chris Archer, but like they literally traded away Chris Archer and stole Tyler Glasnow and Austin Meadows from the Rays. So Chris Archer really isn't that big. Isn't a valid replacement for Charlie Morton and Blake Snell. So I think that's really going to hurt them because starting pitching is really their strong suit last year, having those three at the top. But with the Toronto Blue Jays, yes, I know they don't have the starting pitching just in general, but they do have the hitting, and their hitting is deep from top to bottom. Whether it's George Springer, Bo Bichette, Vladimir Guerrero, Lurias Gurriel, all these guys, it's just a very deep lineup from hitting to speed to power. They have it all, and that's who I think is gonna put them over the top. Well, over the top of the Rays. Um, I don't know how they're gonna fare when it comes to the playoffs because they are so young, but just getting that becoming second in the AL East to the Yankees, I think is going to be a really good step forward for them and give them really good experience. But yeah, just based off the fact that they got better and the Rays got worse is why I have them finishing second.
Right, right. Definitely interesting. So a little bit of disagreement here. As of now, I have the Tampa Bay Rays as my second team in this division. Uh, Really quick, just going over the Yankees. We all know the gobs of hitting talent that team has, from Sanchez to DJ LeMahieu, who it was key for them to keep. Gleyber Torres, Aaron Judge, and Stanton. Like that. That's all fine. I think the question with this team, to an extent, comes with pitching, mainly the starting rotation. Uh, Talion was a good pickup. He was a solid pickup. I think he's a solid player for them. But I would like him a lot more if he was the Yankees' number three. Uh, Masahiro Tanaka leaving the team. I know his regular seasons were up and down, but man, was he a postseason pitcher. He stepped up his game for whatever it was. He would step up his game in the postseason, and I think that next to Garrett Cole as the 1 and 2 in the playoffs would have been great, like going forward more so. But now they don't have that. I honestly think the Yankees, after years of switching their ways to being more like these small market teams and being so analytical and having your prospects and now always giving them up. I think this needs to be the year where they make that big push. And whoever it happens to be at the deadline, obviously it's such a fluid situation. The season hadn't even started yet, but I'm just projecting with the Yankees. The only thing this team needs, if they get a solid number two, bona fide number two pitcher in this lineup, they're going to be even more dangerous. So that's my only thing with them. But I'm expecting them, like Dame, like Mostar, to win the division. I'm sure like Chris is as well. Going to the Rays versus the Blue Jays, this is where the interesting part comes in, like Dame said, because you have the experience now at this point with the Tampa Bay Rays. Glass now being the number one guy returning for that pitching rotation is key because, like you said, losing two of your top three, it hurts. They're definitely going to rely on him to carry it, and they're going to hope that some of their magic works off with these other signings, like Chris Archer, like you said, Rick Hill, Michael Walker. Like those three guys are all guys. It's been a little bit since they were good. Chris Archer literally hasn't been great since he was a Ray. the Rays are just hoping that the way that they do things, the magic that they do things, the way they help players improve, continues on that end. So that's what they're hoping for. And then offensively, there's Brendan Rowe, there's Austin Meadows, there's Rosarena, there's Kiermaier. Like this team, and they still have a very good manager too. I know we're going to continue to question the decisions he made in the World Series, but he's also the same guy that helped get them there. So I think at the end of the day, I'm going to rely on their experience for now, but that is very fluid. I would not be shocked if like 2.5 months into the season, I might be switching my take because this Toronto Blue Jays team, like you said, I think they're another team that could use some pitching come later in the season. Like just their hitting core: Jansen, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Biggio, Bichette, Gurriel Jr., the children of 90s baseball players coming in full force for the Toronto Blue Jays. And then Springer was a big power bat for them in the offseason. Still some solid players in Hernandez and Rowdy Tellez. Like the Blue Jays to me are dangerous. They're that dangerous young team that goes into an MLB season. And I would not be surprised, honestly, if they actually were to overtake the Rays. I'm going to give the Rays the veteran edge for now. But like I said, I am very intrigued. I really do believe in this Blue Jays team. I need to see this rotation because, like you said, Dame, the rotation is the only thing I worry about outside of Hyunjin Ryu. Like, who is the definitive number two? If it's Robbie Ray, that's fine. But then, who's the number three? Who's the number four? You know. So that's my only thing. But I think we all agree the AL East is definitely those three teams are the main ones. The Orioles and Red Sox is just about prospects at this point. The Red Sox have a couple veterans. Do they keep them in hopes that they can turn this thing around, or do they flip them for prospects and shock us all with some of the guys that they have, like Xander Bogaerts and other players? But obviously that's a wait and see situation. We're not going to get into that. Moving on now to the American League Central. This is this is where things kind of take a step back in terms of teams we think can compete. This is a division. This is almost kind of like the rebuilding division because 3 of the 5 teams are rebuilding. You have the Royals and Tigers who have been in rebuilds for a good, I think, 2 years now or
Horrible,
so.
bro. Horrible. Such a horrible division.
Yeah, and then you have the Cleveland. I don't know what we can technically call them in terms of PC, so I'm just gonna say the
Just
Cleveland.
Cleveland. Just
Yeah, I'm
Cleveland.
just gonna say Cleveland. They obviously made the moves this offseason to signal that they're headed towards rebuild. Now they actually have a couple young players here. I think their pitching core predominantly has a few young players. It could be interesting, but I don't think we're expecting them to make that leap. Uh, at least not yet. They just committed to this. They need to see the fruits of their labor, of their recent labor eventually. So this ain't their year. It ultimately comes down to the Minnesota Twins and the Chicago White Sox. So really quick, I'm going to give the slight edge here. This may shock some people, but I'm just going to give the slight edge here to the Minnesota Twins. I think the last 2 years of postseason losses for this team has been tough. But I think sometimes teams need these tough losses to build them, to grow and groom what they have. And I think I look at the hitting talent. I just like the depth of the hitting talent on this team a lot better than the Chicago White Sox. I look at Garver, who's pretty good for a catcher. They got Josh Donaldson. Miguel Sano is a power bat. Jorge Polanco, Kepler, Byron Buxton, and they kept the ageless wonder, Nelson Cruz, as a power bat. He's a 30, 40 home run hitter even still to this age. It's impressive. Unless there's drastic drop off in several positions, the Twins are still going to be a home run hitting team. And we see, at least in the regular season, that can help you win a good amount of series and a good amount of games. My only question is what is the pitching behind Jose Barrios? He is the definitive number one on this team. They have some solid pieces: Kenta Maeda, Michael Pianeta, and J.A. Happ. I think that's solid enough to get them to the playoffs. Again, I find it funny, Dame. I feel like we're going to see a trend with a lot of these teams. Like they need to look for pitching to really help them out. But I just personally have the Minnesota Twins. I think, again, I'm leading on experience once again here that they have compared to the White Sox to bring them forward. And I think these last losses, it either breaks you or motivates you. And I want to believe that it's going to motivate these old Minnesota Twins here. So that's my take. Dame, I don't know if you have a different take. If you do or if you don't, like go into what you think of the Twins and what your expectations for the White Sox are.
Yeah, just to get started, like I said, this is the one of the worst, if not the worst, division in the sport.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be a two team race with the White Sox and Twins, like you said. I think it's gonna be extremely close, and I do think it can go either way. But my prediction is gonna be opposite of yours. I do think the Chicago White Sox are gonna come out on top of this division. They they were a really good team last year, and they made the playoffs even though it didn't really go well for them. So they went into this offseason. They needed starting pitching and bullpen help, and they went out and traded for Lance Lynn from the Rangers, who's been an ace for them. And they went out and signed the best reliever on the market, Liam Hendricks from the Oakland A's. They signed to a really big deal to be their closer, so that really solidifies their bullpen. And by adding Lance Lynn, it kind of gives that 1-2 punch with him and Lucas Giolito at the top. I think that's what's going to give them the edge over the Twins, because the Twins, like that, like you said, they have Jose Barrios, but after that, they don't really have much. Kenton Maeda is good, but I don't think he's as good as Lucas Giolito or Lance Lynn. And then they did sign Jay Happ, and personally, as a Yankee fan, I can tell you he stinks. So that really wasn't a move that I think is going to help them. But overall, the White Sox, I think they have a really deep lineup. Although maybe I'll give the Twins a slight edge in the lineup department, but when it comes to the bullpen and starting rotation, I'm going to give it to the White Sox. I think the White Sox today took a really big hit actually to their lineup. Eloy Jimenez tore his pec, and he's going to be out a few months. I don't know if he's going to be back this season, but that's going to be really tough for them to overcome. But I do think the White Sox have enough to win this division, and they do have enough in their farm system that if a real impact player becomes available around the trade deadline, I do think they would have the edge over the Twins. Say if it became a bidding war, I think the White Sox would come out on top when it comes to getting that impact player. Well, I'm not even gonna talk about the other three teams because they're
Yeah.
garbage. But yeah,
They're all rebuilding. No, like honestly, like I was very tempted to go with the Chicago White Sox because I do like some of the players on this team, like Abreu, Tim Anderson. I'm a big fan of Yohan Moncada, but just like the injury to Eloy Jimenez, like kind of not it's not the only thing that took me away from picking them, but it's like I feel like losing him kind of takes away some of like the batting depth that they would have had against Minnesota, and I feel like with the Twins. I feel like there's just been something that they've been doing the last couple of years there where it's like the pitching, like even if a pitcher doesn't exactly have the best reputation, going in there, like they're helping guys. So that's my only thing. Like I feel like the Twins have been solid with that the last like 2 years or so when they've been making the playoffs. So that's my thing. And also like the White Sox, like was Tony La Russa the right hire? Like I know he's a Hall of Famer and
yeah,
everything, but
I don't like that manager hire for them.
yeah. So that's also my thing because Dame, I think you'll agree with this. Like I think sometimes the manager, like in certain situations, the manager can really help a team reach their potential.
Mm-hmm.
And like I'm just very 50-50. Like I don't know if La Russa is the right guy for this group of players.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't really like that hiring by them. I think they were better off going with kind of a young manager, young and more energetic kind of guy for a team like that, especially. So yeah, I agree with you on that.
Yeah, so that wraps up the AL Central. Real quick to the AL West. Dame, what are your initial thoughts looking at this division? And you know they've lost some chunks here the last couple of off seasons. Is it finally time the Astros finally get knocked off their perch as being the team in this division, or do they still just have enough to still be the winners come the end?
I do not have them as the winner, and makes me really happy to say that because they're cheaters and they don't deserve to be the winners of this division and winners of anything. I do have the Oakland Athletics at the top of the division, and it's really not because the Athletics just became better this offseason. I think it just comes down to the Astros getting worse. They don't really have starting pitching. Justin Verlander's out for the year with Tommy John. In spring training, their number three starter, I forgot his name. Framder Valdez fractured his finger, and he could be out for the year. So that really just leaves you Zach Greinke and Lance McCullers, who neither are really aces. I guess you could call Zach Greinke an ace, but he's kind of like a lower tier kind of ace. So you're really gonna depend on him to anchor your entire rotation because after him and McCullers, you really don't have anything. And not to mention that their lineup, you lost George Springer. He's your center fielder who played great defense for you. He's the top of the lineup kind of guy, a really big veteran leader in that clubhouse. So you're hurt at the pitching rotation. You're hurt in the lineup. You didn't solve your bullpen problem, which was honestly probably one of the worst in the league last year. So you didn't really add anyone there. Um, what's it called? You have Carlos Correa who declined the extension from them this week, and he's a impending free agent. So you don't know how that situation is kind of gonna go with his morale. Uh, so overall, I just don't think the Oakland Athletics are gonna come out on top. Not because they got better, because they did lose a couple pieces in Marcus Simeon and Liam Hendricks, but it's because the Astros I don't think have the starting pitching and got worse on in their lineup and rotation. Just to quickly go over the other parts of this division. Like I said, like I don't know if I mentioned this, but the MLB really does have a lot of bad teams this year, and this is another division. Every division we've went through, there's at least two bad teams, and like
Yeah.
this is not good for baseball, in my opinion. You have the Seattle Mariners and Texas Rangers, who are both going to be battling for who's the worst team in this division, if not the entire league. Then you have just the Angels, who are always just in the middle. They're never getting Mike Trout to the playoffs. I don't think they're gonna make it this year. Their biggest need is starting pitching, and yet again another offseason goes by where they don't address that issue. So I really feel bad for Mike Trout, but at the same time I don't, because he has a 14-year, $400 million contract. But yeah, I think this is the Oakland Athletics division to win, and I have the Astros finally not winning this division after years of dominating it.
I'm going to break the hearts of Yankees fans that listen to it and to listen to us and listen to what I say. I still have the Astros just barely being the division winners in this. I just look at that Oakland A's roster, like to your point, like it's not so much what the A's did and what the Astros were unable to do, but I still just look at that A's roster. I just don't think it's enough. I have zero confidence in what that starting pitching core is behind Sean Manaea personally. And I know like the Astros lost, like losing Verlander last year, like you talk about wishing a guy would have sat out. Like Verlander would have been one of those guys. Like if he was back, I think it would have been a wrap in terms of who this division would belong to. Uh, but I'm not impressed with this team. I know they've been the classic Moneyball team. Like invest in certain spots. They have very good, valuable players. Matt Olson is great. Stephen Piscotty is great. They have, if I'm not mistaken, they still have the former Astro Mike Fiers on the team too. So there's that for you when those two teams face off. But I just give a slight edge to the Astros here because I still like McCullers and Greinke. I know it's not great, but nothing that the A's are doing just jumps out to me. And again, like they're gonna have one or two players that overperform based off of what they are. That's just who the A's are, and that's great for them. But like on a all we can go off is on paper. And on paper, I still look at what the Astros have. I feel like they'll be able to manage because they have some solid pitching in terms of prospects. They have some solid pitching prospects, not top tier, but guys who could fill in and potentially do it for them to fill a couple of holes. And then the offense: Altuve, Bregman, Correa, Brantley, still, Jordan Alvarez. Like I just still give an edge at the end of the day to the Astros over the A's. But I don't blame you for picking the A's because the Astros have lost enough. But I feel like when they've been how they've been the last few years, like, and especially like I feel the pressure of being the hated team is off their shoulders, So maybe that comes into play. Maybe they'll, with that off their shoulders, maybe they'll just go out there. They could just just play baseball. Of course, some people will still give them a hard time. Obviously, that's to be expected, but it's not the ferocity that would have been last season if everything had been normal. So
That's the thing, though. I personally don't think that entire thing is over, because last year they got blessed with there being no fans,
right,
and this year a lot of stadiums. I think basically every team is allowing fans back in, just most at limited capacity besides Texas. So I do think that's fans being back is going to play a big factor, and they're going to receive the boost that they should have received last year. This year, obviously, it's limited, so it's not going to be at this full impact. And maybe a lot of fans kind of forgot about it, but so it might not have a big impact as it would last year. But I do still think that might have a little bit of an impact this year.
right, for sure. It could. I'm really leaning to the veteran teams a lot in this. Like I don't know why, because I actually really
I
love
don't
young
blame you.
teams. I really do love
Experience is
young
big.
teams. Yeah. So like I do love young teams, but like just these particular veteran teams, like as of now, they just jump out to me in what they have. So now let's shift over. We'll give our final like predictions in terms of our division winners and wild card teams at the end. Even though we've kind of preluded to obviously most of that. Uh, NL West. I think we can all agree it's the Dodgers and the Padres competing. I don't think the Dodgers have taken a dip. Obviously, unlike we point to the Astros or maybe the Twins. Obviously, the Padres had that amazing offseason. Um, the the Dodgers are just lethal. They still have just about dang near that entire hitting core. Bellinger and Betts is enough to give most lineups nightmares. But you still got the power hitters on that team. You still got great contact with a Corey Seager, good catcher in Harrison Barnes. I'm sorry, Austin Barnes. Just overall, like they're still good. And then pitching, you get Price back, who the pressure is completely off him now. He's the fourth guy in this rotation. You're talking about a former number one who, when Boston won their World Series a couple years ago, was such a pivotal part in them winning. He's now your number four. And in front of him is Walker Buehler, one of the better young pitchers in the game. Clayton Kershaw, validated legacy last season. We all knew he was great, but validated and still performing pretty well. And oh, by the way, Trevor Bauer, the Cy Young winner last season, just a beast. Now, we noted when he was first signed, the last like 4 or 5 years of ERA have been up and down. I don't think they'll get that sub 2 ERA, but what I think they will get is a 2.2, maybe 2.5 ERA, which in today's era is still pretty good. And I think that overall pitching rotation, the strength, the names, the power, the championship winning experience on this team gives them the edge in the regular season over the Padres, because this team has started off slow in the regular season before and they've bounced back. So I'm giving them the regular season edge. Do you think that the Padres did enough in the offseason, Dame, to come the playoffs, which I think we would all love the scenario of the NLCS being Dodgers Padres? Did the Padres do enough to potentially upset the Dodgers, or at least get it to a game 6 or 7 this year specifically? Not looking forward, but this year specifically.
I don't think the Padres overtook the Dodgers in this offseason. Maybe I would have had a different opinion if the Trevor Bauer thing didn't happen, because they did have such a great offseason by adding all the starting pitching. But in this division, again, when you look at the division, it has three bad teams in it, and you just have the Padres and Dodgers at the top. The Giants suck, the Diamondbacks suck, the Rockies suck, especially after trading Nolan Arenado. So this is yet another division with three shitty teams and two good ones. But these two good ones, they are really, really good. Like, let's not get it twisted. Like, these are probably two of the best two of the top four best teams in the entire MLB. I think when they're mad, they play, I think, 18 times a year. Like, oh my God, all these 18 games better be nationally televised, because I'm excited to watch these two teams. They're so loaded from top to bottom, from starting pitching to lineup. Oh my God. They're definitely two of the teams I'm most looking forward to this season. But I do have the Dodgers, just based off basically what you've been going on with this podcast is just the experience. Like, they've been there, they've done it, and they added Trevor Bauer, the reigning NL Cy Young Award winner. So just based off them being the team that's kind of done it already, and by adding the NL Cy Young winner, that's why I have them on top of the division. But let's not get twisted. Like, the Padres are going to be battling with them neck and neck, and it's going to be a really tough race at the top.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And when you talk about a team that you need star power to beat this Dodgers team, as we saw last year, like they have it in terms of pitching. You got Yu Darvish and Blake Snell, who they were that lucky team that got him away from the Tampa Bay Rays. And then on hitting, Hosmer, Machado, Tatis Jr. It's outstanding. Real quick, the NL Central. Let's breeze past the NL Central. Dame,
The most boring division in sports. Oh my God.
it's so true. So, oh no, honestly, he's not wrong. He's not wrong. At least
It's,
the
maybe not sports. It's debatable in sports. Like, I have to look through all the divisions, but definitely in baseball, this is probably the most boring one.
honestly, I would argue in all sports, because even like in football, like the NFC East, as bad as those teams were, they weren't boring.
It's
Like Jerry Jones
entertaining.
is
Yeah.
not boring. Yeah. So, the NL Central, Dame. Here's my thing: the Cubs have been, they've been what Major League Baseball hoped since 2016. They wanted them to be the promised team, and they just haven't been since they won that World Series. And the Milwaukee Brewers, I hate to say this, I just don't have a lot of confidence in them going this season. Is there any reason to think either of them can overtake the St. Louis Cardinals, who, like you alluded to before, Nolan Arenado is a St. Louis is a Cardinal now? So, like, is there any reason to think someone is going to challenge the Cardinals here?
Just again, two bad teams. You have the Reds and the Pirates at the bottom, just absolute poverty, and then you just have the Brewers and Cubs, who I think just are middle tier kind of teams, and it's the Cardinals at the top. I think no one in this division is really gonna challenge them. They've always just been a winning team, and just adding one of the best players in baseball really helps their case in winning this division.
Right, right. And like you said, like the Cubs still have some of their talent, but like I think we're heading this another podcast, like kind of like Chris talked about, one time when it came to the Rockets. Like we've talked about, like it's a different podcast with that team, but the Cubs breakdown that we could see after this season is interesting, but obviously that's for another time. I just don't think, while the Cardinals could stand to get a little bit better in the pitching department, I think they're fine enough. Uh, they're a team that maximizes the best of their players, kind of like what I was alluding to with certain other teams. With the Cardinals, I think arguably the best at that. They just know how to maximize the talent of the players they have. Flaherty is their ace. I think he's the best pitcher. If you look at the Cardinals, Brewers, and Cubs roster, I at least for me, he's the first pitcher I'm taking off the
Oh
board
yeah,
of those three
yeah.
teams.
But maybe you could argue Kyle Kendricks, but
Hmm.
besides that, like he definitely is the best one. If we don't
Yeah,
mention the Reds, because the Reds have Sonny Gray and Luis Castillo, but like obviously
right.
not going to be competitive enough with the Cardinals.
Yeah, and I think the Reds, a sneaky team, still in like another year or two, they could have a chance, especially if the Cubs fall off. But
Hmm.
just for right now, the Cardinals with Arenado, Goldschmidt, you have some solid outfielders in Carlson or O'Neill. Like I think at the end of the day, the Cardinals they're gonna get this division. What they do in the playoffs, it's all up. Like we literally spoke about the Padres and the Dodgers having being so talented. Like can the Cardinals overcome that? That's a wait and see. But we're not gonna hold it off anymore. Uh, Dame, I'll throw it to you first, real fast. NL East. I think a similar situation here. Uh, they had a nice breakout season last year, but I don't think the Marlins this season will be able to maintain it for 162 games. I know the Nationals had some injury issues last season, but I think ultimately, like, it's just not their time again. They had their World Series, and I look through the lineup. I'm just still kind of bullish on them returning. So, Phillies, Mets, Braves. I feel like I could make a joke about that trio, but I won't because I can't think of one. So, Dame, your first mindset when I throw those three teams at you, who are you taking and why?
Let me get started by saying I think this is the best division in the sport.
Agreed.
I do think there's four teams that could legitimately win it. I do think there's a couple teams that are probably better, but Marlins probably finishing last to me. I do have the Atlanta Braves as the winner of this division. They won it last year, and I just don't see how they don't win it this year. I know the Mets made all these moves and made them better, but Carlos Carrasco is probably out till Memorial Day, so that really hurts. You just have the Grom at the top. Noah Syndergaard's out for the beginning of the year. You still haven't solved your bullpen issue. Like, who can you really trust in that lineup outside of Lindor? Alonso had an off year. Conforto's hurt a lot. You have Jeff McNeil you can trust, I guess. Is JD Davis for real? Like, you have a lot of question marks in this lineup outside of Francisco Lindor. And honestly, I'm sick and tired of really putting my faith in the Mets preseason because it seems like every single year I pick them either to win the division or finish second or make it out the wild card or whatever. And it seems like every year disappoint me. So this year I'm taking the other way. I'm go under their expectations are because a lot of people do have them winning this division. So I'm having finished second to the Braves, but they did make a lot of good moves, and I think they should make another move at the deadline for a bullpen piece. And as long as their team really places expectations, I do think they have a real good chance of winning the division. But before the season even starts, I think they need to get down to business and really re-sign Francisco Lindor and Conforto because they both said that they're not going to negotiate throughout the season. And these are two players who do not want to go into free agency because the bidding war is going to be crazy.
Especially Lindor, like you just traded for
Exactly.
him.
Oh, Lindor, yeah, yeah. You literally need to. Like, all these fans are so excited for you. Like, you can't let them all down by letting a guy like Francisco Lindor, who I think is the third best player in baseball, walk away for nothing. When it comes to the Phillies, they did make a lot of good acquisitions this offseason. And I think is going to help them. They re-signed JC Realmuto, which really helps. They added to their bullpen and Archie Bradley. And the Nationals, they just with their starting pitching, they're always going to be good. But yeah, at the top, I think it's kind of separated into tiers. I have the Braves and Mets as the tier one. You have the Phillies and Nationals tier two. And I think the Marlins are at the bottom with their own tier. But let's not get like the Marlins are a really good team, and they're upcoming. They're really doing it the right way. They have a good
Oh yeah.
farm system. They have a lot of good young players. So that's gonna be a real good team to look forward to in the future. But yeah, Braves and Mets at the top with the Braves with a slight advantage.
Right. So I'm gonna go over mine real fast, and I'll let Chris bring us home on this one. Um, so I have the Braves winning the division as well. The Charlie Morton acquisition I think was a pretty good one to round out their top three with him, Soraka, and Fried. I believe is how you say his last name. Um, Fried went 7-0 last season with 50 strikeouts at 2.25 ERA. Soraka he didn't play a lot in the COVID shortened season. I forget if it was injury or something else, but just
Yeah,
like
he tore his Achilles the year before,
right,
so
right.
that's
So my thing is this: like like I'm expecting the young 23-year-old to eventually bounce back for this team. Like you're not going to convince me that a 23-year-old guy who the year before was playing so good for them, like he's not gonna when he's there when he's fully healthy, he's gonna be big time for them. So I definitely have faith in them, and they have another like solid young pitcher there. And I don't know if it's Ian or Ian, but Anderson,
Yeah, Ian
like
Anderson. Yeah, one of the best pitching prospects in baseball. Who really showed up last year in regular season and postseason.
exactly like 41 Ks, 41 strikeouts in his 6 starts. That's an average of like just under 7 per game. That'd be phenomenal if he could actually replicate that, but obviously it won't be exactly that over the course of an entire year. But a 1.95 ERA, like that's a that's a relatively important stat to look at. I think that's the key stat to look at in terms of pitchers, obviously. So I think the pitching rotation is where I think we both agree we give that edge when it comes to the Braves over the Mets and the Phillies. And then the hitting, like you still have Freeman, Acuna Jr., Ozuna, who you retain, Swanson's there. Like I feel like this team, I'm gonna pull out old reliable one more time in this one, but I'm just gonna go with a team that's been there a few times. And like I said, heartbreak will either push you or it will break you. And I think last season's heartbreak against the Dodgers needs to push this team this season to get back there. I think if you're the Braves, we've given them some leeway these last few years to become an NLCS contender. I think last year they proved they deserve and they belong there. They need to take that final step. I don't know what it is. I don't know. Like I can't say off the top of my head what they could use. Maybe another bullpen arm. Maybe if you get an injury, maybe another starter, maybe a depth player, whatever it is. Like you need to make that jump this season to where it's not you blowing the 3-1 lead that leads to the game 7 against LA. And also, like, you got to compete against the Padres now because the Padres, they loaded up. They have the franchise pieces. Like, I know we talked about Dodgers Padres, but think about Padres Atlanta Braves too. You're talking about Tatis versus Acuna. You're talking about Freeman versus Machado, Soraka, Fried, and Morton against Darvish and Snell. Like I'm excited about that now when I think about it. So I think those are the top 3 teams in the NL, and I do have the Braves winning. Like you said, Dame, the Mets have disappointed us time after time. I wouldn't be shocked if it happened again, but I'm gonna give them a slight edge, especially when their pitching is all the way back over the Phillies. And I love the Nationals. I really do. Like I kind of feel bad, but here's the thing: they're pitching, like you said, arguably 1 through 3 in terms of Scherzer, Strasburg, and Corbin. That probably is still the best 1 through 3 in the division. Not we're not going to go into it, but just by name,
They
they're like
added John
arguably
Lester too as a solid
yeah,
four veteran.
yeah. But here's the thing: like, who do you have confidence in that hitting lineup aside from Juan Soto? Because I looked at that hitting lineup roster today. I couldn't. I do not have any confidence in a lot of those guys aside from Soto. So, I mean, maybe do the Nationals pull out a little bit of magic again, like they did when they won? We'll see. It's gonna take. I think that pitching core is going to have to carry the load heavily, and if a lot of those guys need to pitch heavy innings, like what's that going to do come playoff time? Like, that's just my thing. So I don't want to do it because I really do love, especially Strasburg. I was so happy for him the amazing season he put together for the Nationals that year when they did win. I've always been a big fan of him. Scherzer, I think we all agree, bona fide Hall of Famer. That's not even a question. Obviously, well, with the Baseball Hall of Fame, you never know, but he's a bona fide Hall of Famer. Don't even play with us, Major League Baseball. And yeah, but I just think, like you said, I think they're that tier 2 team with the Braves and the Mets being in the top tier. But take us home, Chris. Who's going to win the. Well, why are the Mets going to win the NL, and why are they finally World Series contenders legitimately this season?
I just don't see anyone stopping them. I just see just
Oh
no
my god.
talent wise, they're just above everyone else. There's no reason why you guys should be doing this podcast episode if you just know the end result, which is a Mets World Series win. So I'll catch you guys there at Citi Field. Me and Dame will be there front row. Jurg, Jurg, you're more than welcome to come. Yeah, it's gonna be a Mets. I don't know about the Yankees, man. They always disappoint me too. So who knows? But yeah, we'll just leave it at that. I don't know what else to say because I mean Mets
There's
are winning
nothing to
this thing,
say.
right?
No.
I know, right? Just the Mets. Yeah. So
uh,
good. Jurg, phenomenal analysis as always. Damien, I don't know.
so real fast before we finish things off. So myself personally in the AL, I have the Yankees, Twins, and Astros winning the divisions, and I have the 2 wildcard teams being the White Sox and the Rays. And in the NL, I got the Dodgers, Braves, and Cardinals being the division winners, with the Padres and the Mets as my wildcard teams. Dame, real quick, give us your final
I
final.
got I got the Yankees in the AL East. I got the White Sox in the Central. I got the Athletics in the West, In the 2 wild cards, I have the Twins versus the Blue Jays. And then in the NL, I have the Braves, the Cardinals, and the Dodgers. And the wild card, I have the Padres versus Mets. Which, that wild card game, if that happens, that's gonna be one of the best wild card games in a while. But yeah,
And you hope that we get like both teams starting pitchers like
yep,
for
yep.
that one.
So coming out the AL, I'm just gonna go through with this. I'm gonna have the Yankees coming out the AL, facing the White Sox in ALCS, and I have the Dodgers versus Padres in the NLCS. That's gonna be one hell of a championship series.
Right.
And I'm gonna have the LA versus New York World Series. I know a lot of people are like, damn, you're just picking the favorites, but I just think they're the top 2 best teams in the entire league. The Yankees have a lot easier kind of road because I do think the AL is honestly terrible, and the NL is a lot harder. But that I do have the Yankees versus Dodgers, and of course I kind of go with this every year, but I'm gonna go with the Yankees winning the World Series. You good back there?
I'm great back here.
Yeah, I have the Yankees winning the World Series over the Dodgers. I as long as their pitching rotation stays healthy, I think that's what's gonna take him over the top, and hopefully they make another deadline move to kind of help him out. Yeah, so Yankees over the Dodgers in the World Series. New York versus LA. Baseball's gonna love it because of all the money they're gonna make.
Right. So I will have to kind of differentiate it up a little bit. I'm gonna have the same World Series as you. I'm gonna have Yankees Dodgers. But I'm going to have the Dodgers winning and repeating. I'm going to stick to my guns of what I said. I felt that all the 2020 champions have a chance at repeating. The jury's still out on 3 of those 4 after the Chiefs failed me. I need one of these teams to come up big for me, man. So I'm going to trust the LA Dodgers. I'm going to have them beating the Yankees in like a 6 or 7 game series. Like you said, going to do big numbers for Major League Baseball. And maybe it could revitalize them and, maybe revitalize the fan base. Who knows? Maybe get some younger fans to watch. Finally. And obviously, we know Chris has the Mets winning it all. I think Chris has the Mets like 3.
Does he though? He hasn't spoke. What do you have in the World Series, Chris?
Honestly, these were phenomenal picks by Jurg, to be honest. So yeah, that'll do it for this week, guys. Great job as always. Yeah, Mets versus Yankees. Mets winning just to break Damien's heart.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
can't wait to bet money on this with you.
Thank you.
I'm not even gonna get the chance to because the Mets aren't making it there.
Jurg, bring us home. Jurg, bring us home.
Yes, thank you all. Thanks all of you for tuning into our MLB season preview. With how we recorded this in conjunction with to other things, it was pretty funny. But the 3 of us, I feel like we've had. However, this is going to come out on YouTube. I feel like the 3 of us have been quality. I will say this: us as a trio. I think the 3 of us are a very great trio. All of us do great work. I love working with you guys, and I hope all of you, take our MLB talk, take our NBA talk that we did. Whenever you listen to that, and just have a ball with it, because we put out some great stuff out there. So thank you all for listening. Those are our predictions, and we will see you all next time.
Peace.
Peace.